Episode 4126. You're not lost. You're just sightseeing.
Moms, it's time to rediscover, rejuvenate, and renew who you are in mind, body, and spirit. Welcome to Create Your Now, Your Best Selfie, the show to help you do just that. Here's your host, certified life coach, personal trainer, and nutritionist, Christiane Wargo.
Happy day. It's Friday. Let's do the happy dance because, yes, I don't know about you, but I need a weekend. I'm not going to get a lot of rest, maybe watching some great sports, but I am going to be able to see the grandbabies and the family. So yes, it's going to be a great weekend, but you know what? You're not lost. You're just sightseeing. For those of you who are brand new to Create Your Now, welcome to this incredible family. I'm so delighted of your presence. If you already had the opportunity, you want to head on over to createyournow.com where you can learn more and to sign up for the Kisses newsletter. They keep it simple strategy, everyday solutions to live, love, and impact. Well, this episode is brought to you by AIM, Inspiring Connection and Community. Well, I got to give a shout out to Miss Dana and Mr. Trevor. It was great to see you again today. And you know what? Oh, you guys are you're just amazing, just so you know. It's fun to meet new people and learn what they're doing in life and just seeing that they are using their talents to better the world around them. And it's amazing. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Trevor and Miss Dana. All right. So with that, I don't know, guys. Do you ever get just tired, exhausted to the point where you're like, I'm just going to close my eyes and see what happens. And then sometimes you fall asleep, or sometimes your mind takes you somewhere. Well, you see, life doesn't come with a map, does it? It'd be nice. It'd be nice if we could close our eyes and all of a sudden we know exactly what we're supposed to do next. We know where we're going. We've got everything planned out. We know the routine. Yes, we're there. But life twists and turns. It throws us, in these crazy detours. Have you ever had those roundabouts that really aren't made for roundabouts? Yeah, that's for another episode. And then sometimes it drops us in places we never expected. And it's interesting because this reality hits even harder when you're raising kids. Because now you're not just navigating your own path. I mean, that's complicated enough. But now you're guiding little explorers through their own confusing journeys. Again, regardless of their ages, because you could have a little, like, a preemie as in like your 2-year-olds all the way up to your 20s, into your 40s, into your 60s. You're like, Christiane, I don't want to go that far. That's all right. Some of us are already up there though. So it's okay if you have to go up that far. All right. But that's where the overwhelm takes over. All right. All of a sudden you're like, I can't be that old. You are that old. And remember, age is just a number, so take a deep breath. But when you have that overwhelm and you're like, okay, am I going to let it take over? Am I not? It really leaves you with some questions. Am I doing this right? Are we lost? Like, where are we supposed to be going? But the thing is, you're not lost. You're just sightseeing. And when you're sightseeing, you don't panic because you're off course. You pause. You look up, you look around, you see where you are, you take in the landscape. You explore surprises. You see, oh my goodness, I wouldn't have seen this had we not taken this turn. Life's messiness is actually a part of the journey. And if we could just grab onto that for a moment, we all might be a little more kind in our everyday. And that goes with us as being parents. Because I don't know about you, when life's a little tough, yep, easy to upset mama, isn't it? And then if mama's upset, daddy's upset, right? Yeah, I know. But life's messiness, that's where growth happens. That's where you have an experience understanding and resilience jumps in because it's like, you can do this. I can do this. You got this. I can do this. And in parenting, that means embracing the unpredictable, which there's a lot of it, learning from every twist and turn and realizing that every wrong turn is actually part of a bigger unfolding adventure, right? The Bible reminds us in Proverbs 3, verses 5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your paths. Are you trying to do life your way? Or are you willing to do something else? Like when you're sightseeing, it's about surrendering control and trusting the path and knowing that God's got you and the path is going to become clear. But you've got to be willing to not only trust God, but trust yourself. That is your kiss to keep it simple strategy. Trust yourself. And that's hard to do when you're always looking back or you feel lost or you're like, I used to get this right, but now I don't know. And confidence fades. And you're like, well, if I don't know, who does know? And then your kids, right? They get to that stage of life and you're like, oh, it's one of those. Terrible twos, tweens, teens. And you're scratching your head and you're like, how are we going to ever get through this? Somehow you make it. And if you didn't know, terrible twos does not start at 2. It starts much earlier. But that is definitely for another episode. But trust yourself. It's important for you to know that when you are making a decision, when you are lost, when you see things that you really didn't see and you're not putting them all together, it's like, okay, what is my gut telling me? Because God's talking to you. Pay attention to that, mama. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, well, I'm just not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to sit here and, didn't work last time, so why would it work this time? Well, maybe last time you didn't know what you know this time. And that's a problem because we don't acknowledge our own experiences as we're growing ourselves as parents. Now, I'm not saying we have all the answers because I don't have all the answers. And sometimes I have my foot in my mouth. Sometimes I say things I shouldn't. And I'm like, another apology needed. Or you have to ask for forgiveness. And then sometimes it's like, just be quiet, Christine. You don't have to talk. And sometimes I just sit there and it's silence and I put my finger over my mouth so I don't speak. But you see, in all of that, when you put it all together in the mixing bowl, what comes out in the recipe at the end? Trust. You got to trust yourself overall. You got to be willing to say, you know what? I don't know what's right in front of me, but I do know this. And I can reason out that. I can see this. This didn't work. So hypothetically, this might be the way to go. What does it look like in real life? Number 1, normalize the struggle. Share your story honestly. Now, I didn't tell you to share all your stories because in reality, some of your stories should not be shared. Maybe with your spouse, your confidant, yes, but with your children, no. There's a time and a place for certain stories, but some are honestly just your experiences. Let them be that. Your children don't need to know everything about you. Okay, so be cautious about that and also make it age appropriate. Children need to hear that confusion and setbacks and failures are a part of life, and those are the kind of stories you want to share. And when you share your own struggles without shame, you show them it's okay to stumble. Joel Osteen says, whether you like him or not, this is what he says: you may be disappointed if you fail, but you are doomed if you don't try. You may be disappointed if you fail. Yeah, most of us are. I don't think anybody says, yes, I failed. This is awesome. Nobody shows up that way. But what we do know is that if we don't try, we're probably not going to get very far. Normalizing struggle takes away fear and teaches perseverance. And I think our children need a lot more of that. They need to understand that they may get it wrong, probably more times than not, and that the struggle is real. But because you know the struggle is real, that means don't worry about it, right? It's not like it's going to come bite you. It's all right. Figure out, do what you know, and then guess what? If you stumble, if you fail, and that's okay if you do because they're lessons learned, right? Check. That teaches perseverance. That means you get back up and you do it again. But the lessons learned, you get to tweak it. So normalize the struggle. Tell the stories appropriate. And oh, by the way, sidebar here. Please do not preach at them. Yes, there's a time to sit there and kind of give the long, huge dissertation to them. But most of the time when they are truly struggling and they've had a setback or they didn't make it on varsity, they got JV, and it's their junior year, that stings a little bit. I mean, it really does. And so when you're looking at all of this, it's like, okay, where am I going with this? What do I do next? Because now I'm stuck here in this team. Well, guess what? Learn what you can learn. There are going to be times that you don't make it to the top. I remember when. Now, let me also remind you of this. Not only do you need to make it age appropriate, not only do you need to share some, not all, and don't preach at them, but I will say this. Don't always share. Because sometimes you need to put your finger on your mouth and be quiet. Sometimes your kids just need to talk. I know. Been there, done that. And sometimes, you know what? Only their words matter. And then maybe an hour or two or a few days later, you come back to the topic. Then that will be the time to share your story honestly. It's important to look at the situation and where it stands. Don't assume that they need to hear all of your stories or the story because all of a sudden, failure's upon us. No, you don't always need to fix the situation, mama. Okay? Sometimes failure is the lesson learned. And that's all that needs to be said. You let them learn the lesson and then you move on. But other times it is, yes, you need to make sure that, oh, wait, I remember when, and this is what mama had to deal with. And then they're like, wow, really? Because sometimes our kids look at us and they're like, you had it easy. I sometimes think my kids think I had it easy. And I'm like, you have no idea. We did not have it easy. I walked to school. We were walking before we had school buses and we only had one TV and, then they hear all of those things. You don't want to go down that kind of sob story. We didn't have cell phones back then, right? The kind of funnies that you would throw out because life has changed overall, but it does bring them to neutral for a moment to where they say, okay, I'm not alone in a failure. And that's really the key. Number 2, build sightseeing moments. You really want to create that time together. And so you've got to set aside those moments regularly. Don't assume they're just going to happen. You got to build them, whether it's a dinner conversation or a quiet walk. My kiddos love talking to me when I'm taking them or picking them up from their activities. And sometimes I would make sure I could pick up one kid, go drop them off at a place, and then pick up another kid so I could always have conversations independently and not where there's 2 or 3 of them in the car. Now, sometimes, yes, I did. And sometimes when the younger siblings were young enough not to really understand anything, then the older siblings would speak. And that was great. But as they got older and they wanted to clue in, it was not always the right time. So if my daughter had dance late and I had to pick her up at 9:30, yes, believe it or not, they'd have dance till 9:30. Please do not send me emails that I was a horrible mother. That's what she wanted to do. I did not force her to do it. Okay, just saying. But I would pick her up so I could have those conversations with her, right? My son who's coming back from a tennis match or whatever, I could go and pick him up and we would have those conversations late because they came back at 10 or 11 o'clock, whatever it is. So set aside those moments and give them that space where they can talk openly about what's hard. And you can too, what's surprising and what's inspiring. It goes both ways, but remember, you want them to speak first and you to listen. Okay, that's important. So help your kids see problems as scenes on the journey, not dead ends. You're exploring, right? And sometimes in our exploration, we need to pause and we need to be still and know that I am God. So Psalm 46:10 says that. And in that stillness, it invites perspective. And if you think about it, you're like, yeah, it really kind of does. But sometimes our kids are so busy And I'm not talking busy as in productive busy. They're busy playing games on the computer, emailing, scrolling, looking at something, because life is a little bit different now. And when you look at that, they don't know how to be still. They don't know how to sit still. And I'm not talking about people who've been diagnosed with ADHD here that have issues with it. No, I'm talking about just sitting with your thoughts and hearing yourself think and feeling it, and then being able to listen and go like, wait, okay, did I say that to myself, or is that the nudge from God? Teaching stillness invites perspective. Things change when you understand. When you can basically unwrap the gift within the failure. And that's a hard thing to do, but it can be done. And so you want to make sure you give your kiddos that opportunity and give yourself that opportunity. And I will say this too, as your kids grow older, this is going to be very, very important, because there will be times that they come to you and you're like, oh my goodness. And they'll call you, or actually they won't call you. They'll send you a text. Are you awake? Oh my goodness. I get those texts. I can say this because they're probably not going to listen to this episode, but they'll send me a text and they'll be like, are you awake, Mom? And I'm like, and most of the time they know the answer already. Yep, Mom's awake. Does Mom sleep? Mom never sleeps. She gets up early. She goes to bed late. We don't know how she does it, but she just does it. And that's probably what's going to happen for the rest of my life. It is what it is. It's just how I operate. I'm not saying it's the best operation, but it is. And so they send me, are you awake? And I'll say, yes. Then the phone rings and I get on the phone, and it's not a 2-minute call. It's a 35-minute, 55-minute, hour and a half call. Sometimes longer. Why? Because they needed to talk to their mom. And in those moments, you're building those sightseeing times, right? Yes, it's on the phone, but it doesn't mean you have to be face to face. So be ready and available. And I'm telling you right now, as they get older, your time frame has to work with their schedule. And I know it's hard. If you want to have a really great relationship with your kiddos, you have to be available when they want to speak. Because if you're like, I'm up, but I'm about ready to go to bed, you just deflated them. I mean, like wind out of the sails. They're gone. They're not going to tell you. And you're going to be like, okay, well, you texted me last night. What did you want to talk about? And the moment of their whatever it is, like they just wanted to tell you something, the nerves actually maybe had faded, and they're like, okay, I can tell Mom this. It's all right. I need to ask for help, and this is the only way I know how. And they get the nerve up to do it. They get the nerve up to share, because honestly, our kiddos want us to see them as amazing. And when our kids begin to question, oh, well, is Mom thinking like I'm a bump on a log? They don't want to talk to you. And then they get guarded, okay? Don't force your kids into a corner. Don't do it. You'll regret it, okay? That's not the kind of stillness I'm talking about here. The stillness is saying, okay, give them room to stop and think, to stop and smell the roses, to know that God's got them, to know that you're listening, so that they also can understand. And so when that phone call comes in and you're like, I didn't expect this, and you're hour and a half into the conversation, you're like, I really need to go to bed. Well, guess what? Your child really needed to talk to you. And sometimes they need that more than anything. And that whole thing of connection and gosh, just, is Mom really going to be there? Is Dad understanding me? It's all because you're building sightseeing moments, especially when it gets kind of crazy in life, and it does so easily. So help your kiddos know and understand, and as you stretch them and as you mentor them, right? As they get older, you become a mentor. You're not just a mom or just a dad. You're a mentor. Don't forget that. They're watching you. Pay attention. And then finally, number 3, anchor in hope and purpose. Find your family's North Star. What does that look like? What is your mission? What is your vision as a family? When I homeschooled them for years, we actually had a vision and a mission statement. We had a mascot. We actually had a picture of our mascot hanging up. We had stuff written on, well, I had it more framed, not on the walls. I never got too comfortable with doing too many things crazy because it usually meant that if I did that, I had to paint it before we moved. Now, I always thought that we were going to stay where we were going, understand that. But in this situation, it was like, no, and I would write it on the whiteboard or whatever. But have you ever thought about creating rituals, mantras, declarations for your family? Maybe you actually have a family verse, that reminds everyone that, hey, you're not lost, you're learning. Right? You're not lost, you're growing. Something simple like we keep moving forward together, or we're better together. Little things like that. Or maybe it's a shared scripture that you repeat over and over again. A great one is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This can serve as a compass in stormy seasons. When things are a little rocky, when things don't feel right, anchor yourself. And don't make it about the world. Make it about your family. What's happening in the privacy of your own four walls? Find your family's North Star. Where is God pointing to you? And by the way, do not be surprised if you're like, wow, our family's kind of changing a little bit. The kids are getting older, and maybe your vision for your family changes. The mission statement changes. One of the phrases I have used, oh my goodness, I don't know when I actually started saying it, but very, very early on. And I think part of it was to keep my sanity. It's a party every day. It's a party every day. And when you have 5 kids, it literally is a party every day. Okay. And that's what you just do. And that's what I rolled with. And when things were crazy, my comment would be, it's a party every day. And I was like, okay. It was a breath of fresh air, but also at the same time, it was recognizing that, okay, parties don't always go perfect, but we can still smile and have fun. And it just leveled it off for me a little bit. And to this day, I still say it. In fact, I just said it probably about a couple hours ago. And I was like, yep, it's a party every day. We just go with the flow. Parenting is the same. And it can be chaotic. It can be confusing. It can be celebratory. It can be frustrating. It can be awesome. And when you reframe your experience as sightseeing rather than getting lost, the fog clears and you can see where you are. That is clarity. That is growth. That allows you to help mentor and guide and coach your kiddos. You see the bumps and turns as part of the terrain, not as obstacles to quit over. A lot of times we're fearful, but also our kids are fearful too, where we get so bombarded with this whole thing of, oh, I just don't know. And we're scared of what we don't know. We're scared of the unknown. And so it really doesn't have anything to do with, can I do it? Is this going to work? It's all about what's going to happen? I have no idea. Is this really going to work? If it does, then what? And so we get stuck in the would have, should have, could haves, what ifs, instead of what? Just taking it one step at a time. You got to be willing to be a part of the party. You're not lost. You're just sightseeing. So yeah, when life feels complicated, because if it hasn't, it's going to. Right? If you're ramping down, you're going to start ramping up. If you're not ramping up, well, then you're probably going to start ramping down. It just ebbs and flows. That's what life is about. But when it feels complicated, when you feel out of control, remember, you're not lost. You're sightseeing. You're learning. You're growing. You're stretching. And you want to do the same for your kiddos. Don't let them settle for something less. Raise their ceiling as you raise your own. Keep moving forward, knowing that every step matters. One step at a time leads to miles of greatness. So where are those miles taking you today? I think you should pack up the kids. It's time for a party. It is. It's road trip day. All right, go out. Be present. Be incredible. Be you. I love you so very much. I cannot wait to see you on the other side. Blessings, hugs, and lots of love. We'll talk to you real soon. Have a glorious, blessed day. Bye-bye.
Feeling inspired, ready to train for life, and love your journey? Visit CreateYourNow.com for more incredible resources to help you along the way. We'll see you next time on Create Your Now, Your Best Selfie. And remember, always be sure you consult your physician before beginning any health and fitness plan.